Welcome to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boom Bust channel, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host Terry, and today recapping the Week 1 loss to the Minnesota Vikings. I'm tired. I've several times said I'm not going to do this tonight. I'll just do it tomorrow or something. But I was going to type out a post just giving my quick thoughts, but it's just too much to type out. So I'm not going to keep you too long. And we'll dive more into it this week, especially as we get into the film. So for me, man, obviously you could choose not to believe it. That's fine. But right around the pick six and, when things was looking comfortable, I started, recapping the game and formulating kind of my analysis, getting ready for this. And I was getting ready to say, despite, what we did, there are some things that I found a little concerning going forward in terms of playing better teams that could probably cost us a game. And lo and behold, it unfolded in this game, and if anything, this week has shown us or reminded people that people gotta stop counting chickens before they hatch, man. Like, let this games play out, let the season play out. So, you got to play 4 quarters. Anyway, so defensively, and I know a lot of people don't like this, but it's football. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. It's whatever. And for those that don't know, as I mentioned before, I am involved with a couple high school teams this year. Football teams, working with them. Obviously, I did the All-Pro series. Obviously, I do a lot of film. So I've been immersed in more football than I have in a long time. And so I feel zero hesitation to argue with people online because I'm reminded once again by real football people what I'm talking about is like, that's what it is. So people get mad when I talk about what's happening on the field essentially, and they're like, oh, you're not giving somebody credit, or you're trying to discredit them, you're trying to downplay them. I'm just telling you what it is. Defensively, the two biggest factors that I saw was JJ McCarthy really not knowing how to process the coverage fast enough, and the backup tackle really being abused. Dio Play well up and down the line, but obviously his early success was a lot against that left tackle, and then we even started rotating Sweat and different people on that side to take a crack at him. So again, that's not to dismiss everything that the D-line did, but if you're talking about on a spectrum, I'm leaning towards more it was that, not our D-line being naturally good pass rushers. It was a lot of what we saw before. And really the defense in general. Like, I know early on, especially, they was talking so much about Dennis Allen. It looked just like Eberflus. We was playing max coverage, rushing 4, a couple mug looks, but we only rushed 4. We didn't do no sim pressures, nothing. And I was tracking it early, but then I stopped because I was like, kind of whatever. But yeah, we blitzed like one time in the first quarter and a half or whatever it was. So on passing down. So very much similar. Now, Grady Jarrett definitely has a different level of juice. Again, he's not in his prime, but you can just tell he's a lot more field than what we used to in the interior part of the D-line. But everything else, again, Dio did a good job. Everything else was pretty similar. And even with the backups in the secondary and the linebacker, I didn't even know TJ Edwards was out. Everybody filled in well. So, kudos to them and kudos to the staff getting them ready. But overall, McCarthy just was not seeing the field. And mostly Bears fans, y'all should be veterans of what that looks like, because we've seen it so many times. And so I think he was late getting to reads, which was also causing the pressure to be more effective. And then they didn't really run the ball well. And once things flipped, like they started to get more help, tight end, chips, all that to the left side to give the left tackle more time, which is something, you can fix schematically. But typically what doesn't happen is the quarterback, just especially a rookie quarterback, essentially they don't just flip a switch usually, and JJ flipped a switch. For whatever reason, maybe they call different concepts. I would have to see the all 22, but he started making reads a lot quicker. And as you saw, when those two things, the left tackle and JJ, kind of changed, the defense wasn't as effective. And then eventually they started to get some runs too. So obviously that sets up the play action, which is what Minnesota wants to do. So, I mean, I said before this season when I was doing tiers, everything I'm betting on the Vikings isn't, everybody's like, oh, well, Darnold did well, so plug and play with McCarthy. No, my whole hat was hanging on KOC as a coach, and he proved it again today. Great adjustments in that second half, completely shifted the offensive flow, and really gave them a chance to win with some good play calling and, setting JJ up. And credit to JJ too. So, defensively, obviously, people are going to be like, well, we didn't have our guys. I don't see this being much different than Eberflus. I believe Dennis Allen said they're going to try early on in the season to get there with 4. And if not, then they might start having more pressure packages. So we'll see. But for right now, very similar to the defense that we saw prior. And I mean, they were flying around and stuff, but I seen that defense do that too. So that's that. Offensively, which is what everybody wants to talk about. As I mentioned, doing a lot of work, especially with film and game planning. So I did what I've been doing, and I decided to chart the Bears offense tonight, but I did it for the first half, and then I was just kind of over it. But we did not touch the field, and I don't really think in the second half until like the end, I don't think we touched the field without a tight end. A good amount of 11 of personnel, but a ton of 12 personnel. Loveland, and this is what you see with but recently a couple teams have multiple tight ends that are pretty marquee, and this is what you always hear, but honestly I don't see it a lot. The flexibility, you could come out here and do this, like I think of Buffalo with Kincaid and Knox, and they don't do it a lot, but we did it all tonight. I mean, obviously a lot of normal 2 tight end sets, but we had Loveland out there and Trips, and then Komet on the other side, but we did a ton of condensed formations. Everything was tight formations, like doubles close, double stack close, ace trips, a lot of 2 tight end stuff, a lot of, I won't say exactly what you saw with Alabama, but kind of what Saban first started with Alabama with his 12 personnel stuff that became real popular. So I think, and again, it's one game, and we'll kind of see over time, but I think it's fairly similar to Detroit. Philosophy-wise, Ben Johnson really wants to come out in condensed formations and either motion and get to a 2-man side. They like the 2-man concepts. So a lot of motion into doubles. Or they just want to release from condensed formations. Which is very, newish wave. Now, the difference is we did a lot from under center. That's not typically what you see with a lot of these, newer offenses, which obviously that gives you the play action ability, the boot game ability, a lot of those different things and things that we saw in Detroit. So let me just finish this thought and then I get into our execution. I think for what I saw tonight, Ben Johnson's offense is a philosophy that I could definitely get more jiggy with than the ones I've seen the last few years. I kind of broke down the passing concepts last year and how they just really did not make sense. They didn't make sense. The routes weren't great, and it just didn't fit what our personnel was. And this was completely different. If you look at it, everything, even if you do down and distance and everything was geared towards efficient plays, meaning that we want to get positive plays first and second down. We want to make that third down as short as possible. That is a philosophy that I'm very familiar with, that I understand. Passing game wise, it was all about flooding zones. Like I said, we condense these formations and then we flood these zones. We don't have multiple people in the same area. And so not only does that just make sense schematically to me, but what it does for a quarterback is you looking at space. So if you teach a quarterback this way and they put on Madden or something, obviously they're not feeling pressure. So, but even if it's just 7-on-7, whatever, like they should be able to very quickly diagnose things because you're looking at space. If this space is covered, then this space is vacated. And the more you do it, the quicker you get at it. But again, that's a philosophy that it makes sense to me. You're not shying away from the run. Even if it's 2 to 3 yards, you're okay with that. You're incorporating that into your strategy. And again, you're just trying to create short third downs. Now, the issue with what we have going on, we don't have a run game like Detroit. We don't have an O-line like Detroit. Obviously, most people don't got an explosive back like Gibbs, but we also aren't getting pushed on the line like Detroit. So Jonah, and again, the run game specifically, I really got to watch the film. But one thing you could just tell is not a lot of movement going on. So the cutbacks on the weak side of the part of the zone, or some of the perimeter stuff was it hit a few times, but for the most part we weren't getting movement on the line, and so it just made our run game very, very pedestrian, although successful, but slightly. So I don't think the play actions were as believable, especially the more we went on through the game. And then the other big thing is I felt like while this might be okay for tonight, we can't continue to make everything dink and dunk. We can't make everything short. There has to be some explosive plays. It doesn't have to be 4 guys with 20 plus yard routes, but we got to have some type of deep threat. We got to have some type of explosive plays. And lo and behold, again, once the game started to flip, our offense started to stagnate, and we, stalled out on so many drives in a row for that very reason. Like we had a couple drives with penalties where it was like third and super long. But other than that, the third downs weren't crazy. We just weren't picking up a ton of yards. So we started to really settle for really, really small gains. And, again, to start off, to march down the field, to be methodical, that's cool. But eventually you have to be able to make some of those explosive plays, not only to give the secondary another second of hesitation or half a second, but also it stops from seeing blitzes that we ended up seeing, because there was no fear about covering the top. So now we're just going to blitz you crazy. And that's kind of what we end up getting. And, I got to watch the film. I think in real time, I think the O-line was better pass pro, but obviously we still got in some situations where Caleb was pressured, and it very might well be that there wasn't anything open downfield. We'll get to the film and kind of see it, but overall, man, I can't really put too much on anybody. I mean, like a couple big penalties really bailed the Vikings out a couple times, and then the defense just kind of wore down towards the end. And offensively, again, like I said, we just kind of started to stall out, and we couldn't really hit any of those big plays. I think the one thing that I was very disappointed in is that Caleb was not able to hit some of these layups. and I mean the more vertical ones too. And the weird part is it was right over the middle. Like it wasn't like wide open, nobody there, but you could see he had an issue with layering the ball. It was like, again, I'm trying to throw it as hard as possible so it could get there fast as possible, probably so it doesn't get intercepted or whatever. And there was a few times where it was just like you kind of needed to layer that ball a little bit. And when you talking about stuff over the middle of the field, especially like crossers and stuff, we got to be able to be good at that, because that is just such a defensive stressor these days. So that was a little bit disappointing, but everything else, I don't know. I wasn't. I heard a couple people was like, "Oh man, the O line's the same." Like I didn't feel that way. I felt like the offense was completely different. I felt the offense had a rhythm. We just, we just got to be a little more explosive in some of our plays. So, and then of course the false starts, which was weird because Jonah Jackson's the one that played with Ben Johnson, but he was the one that kept getting false starts and stuff. So we'll see what happens. Like Ben Johnson said, the cadence and the motions and stuff is all part of their philosophy of how they want to attack the defense. That's kind of the prevailing thought these days with offense. I don't think it matters because you could be Ben Johnson in the Lions, or you could be Mike McDaniels in the Dolphins, where it's like, oh, the bells and whistles don't matter and everybody's figured it out. So I think, and even like with the work I'm doing with high schoolers and stuff, I just, it more than ever, the old school logic is showing up. Like all that doesn't matter if you don't execute, especially in the trenches. So that's kind of where we're at. All right, so I'll get to more hopefully this week, but definitely go down to the comment section. Let me know what you thought about tonight. Share around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, stay up and bear down.